If you have ever looked at Washington and thought, why does everything move so slow? You are not crazy. But here's the part a lot of people miss. In the American system, slow is not always a glitch. Sometimes, slow is the safety feature. This is Stars and Saturdays. Today, we are breaking down how a federal bill becomes a law, without party noise, without internet lawyer nonsense, and without pretending the process is simple. A bill is a proposal for a law. It might deal with taxes, roads, veterans, defense, agriculture, crime, spending, or 1,000 other things. But a bill does not become law just because somebody has a good idea, gives a speech, or posts something online. Under Article 1 of the Constitution, Congress is the branch that makes federal law. Congress has two chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. That matters because a bill has to survive both of them. The first step is introduction. Anybody can have an idea for a bill. A citizen, a group, a mayor, a governor, a business owner, a veteran, a parent, or the president can all want a law changed, but only a member of Congress can formally introduce a bill in Congress. After that, the bill normally goes to committee. Think of committee like the inspection bay. That is where members can study the idea, hold hearings, hear from experts, hear from supporters and opponents, make changes, or decide the bill is not ready. A lot of bills die right there. They never get a big speech, they never get a dramatic vote, they just sit in committee and go nowhere. That can be frustrating, but it's also part of the filter. If the committee moves the bill forward, it can go to the floor of the chamber where it started. In the House, debate is usually more structured. In the Senate, debate can be much more open, and the rules are different. But the basic idea is the same. Members debate, amendments may be considered, and then members vote. If the bill passes one chamber, it is not done. It has to go to the other chamber and survive there too. That's where people get tripped up. Passing the House does not make it law. Passing the Senate does not make it law. For a regular federal bill to go to the president, both the House and the Senate have to pass the same bill. Not almost the same, the same. If the House passes one version and the Senate passes a different version, Congress has to work out the differences. One way that can happen is through a conference committee, where members from both chambers try to produce final language both sides can approve. Then, each chamber may have to vote again. That is another reason the process feels slow. It's not one gate, it's a series of gates. And every gate creates a chance for the bill to be changed, blocked, delayed, or killed. Now, let's say the bill survives all that. It passed the House, it passed the Senate. The final text matches. It is enrolled and sent to the president. At that point, the president has options.
If the president approves the bill, the president can sign it. Then it becomes law. If the president does not approve, the president can veto it and send it back to Congress with objections. The National Archives points to Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution for that process. Even though people use the word veto all the time, the Constitution lays out the power as the president refusing to sign and returning the bill with objections. That veto is not the end of the story. Congress can override a veto, but the bar is high. It takes a 2/3 vote in each chamber. That means 2/3 in the House and 2/3 in the Senate, not one chamber, both. That is checks and balances in plain English. Congress can make law. The president can check Congress with a veto. Congress can check the veto if there is enough support to override it. Nobody gets the whole steering wheel. There are also timing rules. If Congress is in session and the president does nothing for 10 days, not counting Sundays, the bill becomes law without the president's signature. But if Congress adjourns during that window and the president does not sign it, the bill can die. That is called a pocket veto. So when people say, just pass a law, that sounds simple, but the system is not built like a drive-through window. It is built more like a lock with several keys. Idea. Introduction. Committee. Debate. Vote. Other chamber. Same text. President. Possible veto. Possible override. That is not an accident. The framers were worried about power being too easy to grab. They had just fought a revolution against concentrated authority. So the system they built makes federal lawmaking possible, but not casual. Now, that does not mean the system always works beautifully. It does not mean every member of Congress is wise. It does not mean every bill is good. It does not mean games do not get played. Of course they do. But if we are going to be citizens instead of spectators, we need to understand the machine before we yell at the machine. If a bill dies in committee, that is different from the president vetoing it. If a bill passes the House but not the Senate, that is different from becoming law. If the House and Senate pass different versions, that is not finished business. If the president vetoes a bill, Congress still has a constitutional path to override it, but only with major support. And if somebody online says they passed a law, so it's law now, you should ask, passed where? The House? The Senate? Both chambers? Same text? Signed by the president? Overridden after a veto? Those details matter. That is the whole point of Stars and Saturdays. Not to make everybody a lawyer, not to make everybody political, but to make regular Americans harder to fool. The lawmaking process is slow, messy, and sometimes aggravating. But when it works the way it's supposed to, it forces ideas to survive more than one person, more than one room, and more than one vote. In a free country, that friction can be annoying. It can also be protection.